Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. You are here live with us on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we are so excited to have you in our presence today. And so today is Wellness Wednesday, and we are excited about our wellness. And we had started a um, uh, part one of wellness in the workplace a few weeks ago. And so we want to end that series today with just a little panel discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about, wellness, and I'll bring up some slides in a minute, but then we'll have on a guest that will be here with me to kind of discuss ways that we can really implement wellness and some of the challenges that come along with that, and, what we would do to, mitigate those challenges. And so, Javon, if you'll go ahead and bring up our slides, we really do want to jump in here today because I think that we have a lot to share. So, in this presentation today, we're really going to explore some strategies for not just talking about wellness or creating the program, planning for it, but really implementing it and implementing it in different work environments. We are so sure that we have kind of tried to cover all bases of every place that someone could possibly be working, whatever type of environment. And we really want to look at what we can do to satisfy all of those environments. Next slide, please. So we have a few different environments, and I want to kind of talk about the concept of the corporate office. There does still exist a group of people that have to go into a corporate office, and those corporate offices sometimes will have what we call cubicles, and and those might be leased spaces. I know there are some people that own their buildings, but for the most part, what we are really talking about today is the environment where people cannot necessarily change very much inside the building. There's not a whole lot they can do because it's a leased space, and there may not be very much opportunity for them to really build out anything different than what the space is. And so for that reason, we're going to work with what we got, in other words. And so there's one of the things we have to look at, is ergonomic design. We got to be able to promote good posture, minimize strain with ergonomic chairs and adjustable desks, encourage movement and standing desks and walking breaks. Now, I know that's a lot, but there exists some really good data, for having these types of environments embody, the promotion of wellness. And we can do that, through having better equipment. I mean, just better furniture. I have shared this before when we have talked about, having better work environments, how one of the companies that I had done some business with in the past, they talked about how they change out their chairs every year. They give everyone the opportunity to have a brand new chair every single year. Now, for some people, that might seem like it's a lot, but you need to put it in your budget. If you can, to be able to buy chairs that actually will last longer than a year, or change them out. And so if you're buying the $49 chairs, then you need to budget for another $49 chair every year, because and then try to get a $49 chair with a design where it can lean back, or it can actually, the back of the chair can be adjusted to give more support. And these are really important things, because you want people to be able to not have any type of physical ailment based on the fact that they came to work and sat in your chairs, and your chairs were not designed for a body to be there for 8 hours. And so it's just important that, or sometimes 10 hours, because there are people who sit longer than 8 hours. But then you also need to be able to give people the ability to have some walking breaks. They need to be able to get up and move around. We've talked about putting on your Apple Watch or your Samsung or whatever type of watch you might be wearing. If you're using your watch in that way, or your phone, putting there an alarm to tell you it's time to stand now, time to walk, move around. Those are really good pieces of tech that you can use in your life to help you, get very good movement, out of your body while you're at work. But then having a standing desk is also a really good thing. I talked about the standing desks that we have in our office in Texas, and I absolutely love them because, I have a higher chair, or I can actually have a a desk that, or not a standing height, at the desk so that I can stand. And there have been many times where I've used that. And even when I'm presenting online on Zoom or some other platform, I love to stand because it gives me the ability to have better footing, and I can kind of move around and, as I would do if I'm on a stage. And so that does, provide for me a lot of, perks because it just gives me, I'm sitting so long most days, it gives me another option to better, take care of my body. But then it minimizes the strain, on the back, and the strain, that sometimes can happen, with the neck, and so having these wonderful types of desks and chairs, really does well for assisting us with our wellness in the workplace. Light and air. I will tell you, it is so important to maximize the natural light when you can. I love this screen that I have behind me because it gives a good example of that, with the beautiful amount of light coming in, natural light coming in from the window. So being able to have natural light and fresh airflow is excellent. And when I'm in my home office, I actually sometimes will open up this window, or I have a couple of workstations here in this particular location. And one of those is actually on the balcony. And so if I'm in a situation where I don't have to have, privacy as much in my conversation, I will work out there for the fresh airflow and the beautiful sunlight that kind of comes over the balcony. And I have the ability to close it off if it's too much. But utilizing light therapy lamps also gives you a similar experience. And I've shared with you guys, I've shown it on previous broadcasts. My light therapy light is sitting right here above my desk, and I turn it on to get some mood boosting. And I try to get light therapy, a couple times a day if I can, because it really is good for, the thought process. It helps to mood boost. It just gives a lot, in the wellness arena. We use light therapy a lot, and it gives a lot to, making sure that you can make it through the day. Having that light therapy in the afternoon sometimes is really good because it's like, okay, I've got another 4 hours, but I can do this. Green spaces, incorporating indoor plants to enhance air quality. I like to use, when I can, succulents because, of course, it's really hard to kill them, though I have done it. I'm sorry. I travel a lot. And so sometimes I forget that if I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, I've got to make sure that even my succulents, have enough. I water them right before I walk out of the door. But, having that atmosphere where you have the oxygen coming from the plants is amazing. It does boost, mental well-being. It offers the oxygenation of your area and atmosphere, and it's so important for you to be able to do that. And then, of course, offering some on-site, fitness classes or healthy meal options if you do offer meals at your location, or if you have snacks, having those healthier snacks. Some mindfulness workshops to promote the well-being and health is really, really good when you're in that type of environment. Next slide, please. Okay, there we go. Shared offices like co-working locations. I have absolutely done both the cubicles and the shared offices like co-working locations. I actually have been, I was at WeWork for a period of time and then moved from there to, we have two shared office locations right now, one in Florida and one in Texas. And we're in the process of getting a second one in Florida. And so I will share this with you. These type of environments have their own challenges, and sometimes the companies that are providing the co-working experience or the shared office experience will go great lengths to putting wellness options in your package. And so we have those at the location in Texas, and I absolutely love the fact, and you've heard me talk about it, that we have, a wellness room, where you can go in with a reclining chair, with some plants in there, and, you can diffuse oils if you like, and just have a moment. Okay. On your break, but we also have telephone rooms. So some people need, because we have cubicles, we have an office, but outside of our office, we have cubicles for our team to work. And, we can use the wellness rooms and the telephone room when privacy is necessary for us to take a moment, and so these designated spaces for uh, the environment to really flesh out and become what you need it to be, all things business. We have a wonderful conference room. We have a great training room, but also having great spaces to have these quiet zones are very, very important. Collaboration zones are excellent. We can go and take advantage of being able to collaborate. Sometimes we collaborate at cubicles, but other times, because we have them so that we can actually take out the area that makes it a cubicle and make it one big shared table. And that has been a really good way for us to collaborate and not have to move the whole team when we have all the team in the office. But, other times where we need more privacy, we will go into the conference rooms, and we have a couple of conference rooms, one for a smaller group and the other one for up to 20 people. And so that is great. And we sometimes will train in the conference room because, we need to be around the table, and we have this, training activity, or we do focus groups even in those kinds of collaboration zones. But the quiet zones are really, really important. And being able to do focused work inside of the office or even at the cubicles in our space, it does us well. And making sure that everybody has a good set of headphones. We've got I use my AirPods and my Beats headphones sometimes, but there are other times where I just will flat out go old school and put on my over the headphones. I've got a pair of Sony's. We've got some really good, headphones as well, that were donated to our company, and my husband uses those, and it just really shuts out the world, and we can have a very private situation when necessary for the, listening purposes, or for just, being able to focus on what we're doing. Then having community building spaces is really important too. We have a very large open space for when people get off the elevator. It's right there. And so we've used that for community building, for social events, for networking, and having the ability to, even during the day, chat with other types of people who are from different businesses who share the space with us. We've got attorneys in that space. We have, graphic artists in that space. I mean, I've gotten a lot of really good camaraderie, in the space, and we've done some very good networking amongst the people who also are in the building. It just makes a lot of sense when you're able to have that kind of environment. And so both when we were at WeWork and at City Central, where we are now, or now it's being changed the name to Thrive, I think. And then also at the Start Hub, which is where we are in Florida and Houston. Those spaces do create the ability for us to have have the collaboration, the quiet zones, and community building. So if you're going to do co-working, look for something like that. We searched, and I tell you, I actually visited several, and before we actually said, okay, this is where we want to land. And I've enjoyed being able to have options that if I'm in another city, another state, or even another country, belonging to an organization that has some sort of program that allows me to connect in other places. Like Regis is another one where they have spaces all over. Aloft, they also have spaces all over. So having that as an option is a really good thing, and being able to push forth your wellness in places like that is going to be important. So make sure that when you're choose for all three: collaboration, quietness, and the community building. Next slide, please. All right. So here's one of my favorite topics: work from home environments. Okay. Because even though we have all of these wonderful office options that we utilize when we're traveling, there are times when we actually do have to work from home. And more often than not these days, because when we do travel, we're using Airbnb, or we're using spaces that are physical homes to other people that have opened up their homes for us, in times when we have to travel some places that we go more frequently, so that we'll have like this, designated environment that we can kind of count on. So having a designated workspace in your work from home environment, or having several designated workspaces in your home environment, is very important. Here, when we are in our Southern California location, we are in a townhouse. And in the townhouse, we have I would say four designated workspaces in the townhouse, because we also have studio here. And the studio is, downstairs, and we have turned the entire living room area into the studio space. It does give us that, ability to have lots of work, wellness, environmental things there. We've got a wonderful diffuser. We also have a humidifier in that space, which is great. We have very comfortable couches and chairs in the space. And so when we're sometimes working where we have teams that come in, we can use that space. When we're filming, we use the space, of course, for the filming, but we also use the space for, strategizing what we're going to film. And it just becomes a very nice space to use for that purpose. Then we have our outdoor office, which is, I've talked about, on the balcony, where we've got a wonderful, beautiful desk, and wonderful comfy chairs. When we have more than one person working out there, we've got the smaller desk that can, kind of move around, so one person can be working at the larger desk while somebody else is working on the smaller space on the balcony. We curated that space for that reason, so, that we would be able to have it and also use it as an example or a model for others. And so we've had a designer come in and, take a look at it for us and offer us other ideas about what we could do to make the space really, really work for us as an outdoor office. And I know people are like, outdoor office? Yes, outdoor office. I mean, it's a wonderful wellness concept, I tell you. And I didn't create it, but I hail, the person that does, and just kudos to you, because it does, well on helping people, to really be more productive and come up with lots of creative ideas. Then we have our, other three dedicated workspaces that are upstairs, where we have one room that has three desks. And one of the spaces is more private than the other. We have like curtains where we can kind of close ourselves off. But in this environment, we have to really be conscious of the fact that we have other people in the space. And so we may have to take our phone calls in a different room in order for us us to be able to maintain privacy for both the parties we're talking to and the people who we are, working alongside of. And so that's very important. Having a visually appealing and functional environment is also important. So, I mean, I have gone great lengths to make every space different, so that each person has what they need to have to be comfortable, to be, functional, but also to have, some inspiration. And having the ergonomic setup, we've got, some really nice, comfortable chairs, and we have the ability to swap them out, if we need to. Sometimes we will end up with a lower chair or a higher chair based on what our goals are for the day. And so having those options are very, very nice. Having regular breaks and time to step away. This is something new that we've had to involve ourselves in. We now have a scheduler in our company, and I've seen other companies that has done the same, where there's one person that's responsible for making sure that the schedule doesn't get so impacted. I talked about one time where there was a scheduling issue that happened, and it was none of our fault. It just happened where everybody was scheduling on the calendar for that day, and we didn't realize that we were all doing so. And so as a result of that, we ended up doing something that we didn't intend, and I had 11 meetings in one day. And it was like, oh my God, how did that happen? But we've fixed those kinds of issues. However, if you are scheduling for yourself, you've got to be really careful to make sure that you put in time for you to recharge. Have 15 minutes between appointments. Sometimes 30 minutes is even better. Ensuring that you have this healthy work-life balance, that you're able to take bio breaks, and, that things are really scheduled out properly for you to last the day, okay, or last the week. Because when I've had times where my schedule was very, very tight like that, by the time I get to my Sabbath, I'm like, oh, I'm having a hard time. So I need, for me, I need some space in the day. I need space in between days sometimes. And we've done that. I have a day that I only am supposed to be doing paperwork, and that has helped me a lot, because I'm able to get up a little later on that day. I'm able to work a little longer, but I'm also able to make the day what I need it to be, so that I am able to, last the week. Okay. And so it's important to kind of, do that if you can. And then stay connected with your colleagues through meetings, virtually, phone calls. We use Teams, to try to communicate between each other. I've used Slack before, and it is very efficient. We've talked about our Slack use. I've also used, just the good old telephone, and FaceTime. We've done that, and that it seems to be pretty effective as well, but having the ability to maintain community and having good social interaction is important. Okay, next slide, please. So those people who are in hybrid work environments, sometimes you'll need to be able to develop some policies and procedures for communication when you're collaborating in a hybrid setting. It's very important to understand that the hybrid settings sometimes are really a big challenge, as with the settings where people are outside of the office in the field most of the time. So you got to be able to offer some flexible scheduling and accommodate the preferences and the needs of your contractors and employees when they are in that hybrid setting. Allowing for the mix of the in-office and remote arrangement is important, but you have to be able to ensure that everybody has equal access to resources, and opportunities, are the same. If we have really good monitors in the office and people are working from home, don't make them purchase their own monitors. If they're an employee, provide them with the monitors that everybody else has, so that there is equity amongst the work. They're able to see, they don't have issues with, things being on this really small, monitor, and, there's a way forward for them to really put forth really good work because they have everything they need. If they need a tablet, get them a tablet. If they need a computer, provide a computer. I am finding that, I'm going to almost about 70% tablet use during the day. And it's really a great thing unless I'm working on something like with graphic design or instructional design where I really need the larger, monitor. I'm really trying my best to work on the tablet and use the ability for me to write a lot more and, take meetings, from the tablet if I can, because I have Zoom there and, having the tablets set up that I can do that really makes a lot of sense. I'm able to take notes on one tablet while I'm actually have the screen on the other. So, having the hybrid work environment for me has meant that, when I'm out of the office, I don't necessarily take the computers. I'm only on tablets. And when I'm traveling, I'm trying my best to take, as little as possible and, to make it so that I'm not having to carry so much. I don't have 20 pounds of weight on my shoulders or on my back in my backpack. These are all wellness principles. And so, making sure that, your team, if they're hybrid, that they have a good backpack, that they are, able to communicate, that you have the proper tools for them to do so, that you do some virtual team building, and to foster a sense of camaraderie amongst the team and collaboration. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So in the field environments, well, safety first. Okay. Providing for people to have a safe way to move around. If they are in a vehicle that you are providing, make sure that, or if they're in vehicles, period, make sure that you do provide them with the proper training, defensive driving, hazard awareness, emergency procedures. All of those things are going to be important, and that promotes safety and wellness. First and foremost, okay? But then make sure that their vehicles have all of the right stuff inside so that they have an ergonomic environment as well. I love, having the seating pads if your seats don't, heat up or, if there's the seats are not as comfortable, having some aftermarket, tools to put inside of the vehicle really can help. I actually, when I was in the car more frequently, I'm not in the car as much now, but when I was in the car more frequently, I had a little diffuser that fit right into my air vent. That was a wonderful addition. I could diffuse oils, in between meetings when I had to go from place to place. I travel a lot by plane now. And so and we're going to do a whole series where I show you what I take on the plane. So I've got, gadgets that I put in the window on the plane that hold, my water and my tea. I have, something that I actually put on the tray table to make it germ free. I have, something that actually goes on the back of the seat that actually will hold my tablet so that I can type and not have to be all crunched up, And so, there are lots of things because sometimes I'm on very long flights going from California to Florida. Of course, that's a big, it's a lot of time, that we're on the plane, or even when we've had to fly out of the country, which we have to do considerable amount of time. So, based on that, I've had to create the environment for work that makes sense for me. And sometimes I don't have the benefit of being able to take downtime when I'm on the plane because I have to be prepared by the time I get there for whatever it is that I'm doing. So that means sometimes I'm working while on the plane. But having the proper technology support, providing mobile devices, navigation systems, GPS. We actually are using software. I'm using, the iPad mini in my car as my CarPlay device because I have a car that doesn't have CarPlay. I don't spend a lot of money on cars. So, I have a very basic environment inside of the car that I drive when I drive. And I use my tablet in a little holder inside of there. And I have a a shortcut on my tablet called CarPlay, and it actually has the same environment that CarPlay would provide. I plug it up so I can hear everything over the speakers in the car, and I use that when I'm rolling down the road. And it makes it so that my schedule is there. It's constantly letting me know, okay, you're 3 minutes out or whatever, because it has a really good mapping system. And so, I mean, if you're in a situation where you have to use an aftermarket option, I would say that the iPad mini is a really good aftermarket option. Even the older iPad minis are reusing a one that you might have had from before. Having that iPad, just putting the shortcut on there, it will go on an iPad as far back, I think, as iPad 4. So reusing an older device to put all the information on there for, mobile is great. And then having the best support networks is going to be awesome, for field workers, because people need support. They need to be able to have access to supervisors and colleagues, and mental health professionals, because working in the field is not, it's not for the faint of heart. I tell you, it's a lot that goes into it, and you need to be able to decompress and, make sure that you're, using some best practices. So having regular communication and check-ins are going to be key for people who are in the field, because you want to be able to stay connected and you want them to feel connected. Okay, wonderful. So I kind of got through most of the slides here. We're going to come back with our final slide at the end, but I want us to bring on Kevin Janeway, who we've had on before, and give us an opportunity to kind of chat a little bit about the concept of the workplace wellness environment. And so with that said, Kevin, are you there? Let me see if we can get you in the room. There we are.
I'm
Okay,
here.
wonderful.
All
Yes, so
right.
for joining me
Good
today.
morning.
We're excited that you're here with us, and I want to be able to make sure that we have you weigh in and kind of talk with us a little bit about the wellness environment. And so I know you are working. You started off working in the office, and then you went hybrid, and now you're mostly at home. So with that said, kind of tell us what that experience has been like for you, and what you've had to do to make your experience more of a workplace wellness environment there at your location.
Yes. First of all, I made sure that I had office furniture that supports me working from home. So I made sure that I got myself a very comfortable, very supportive chair and a desk that I can work from. And some things that I do for wellness in my workplace is I also diffuse oils. I have Young Living oil diffuser and oils, and I like to keep my window open so I have fresh air in the environment. And I usually make sure that I stay hydrated. Hydration is very, very important, and that I'm eating nutritious meals and getting adequate rest. Um,
Wow, that you just said a whole lot. Okay.
yeah,
Because people don't realize what goes into working from home. A lot of the things that your employer normally, especially when you're a contractor, because I'm a contractor, and I have several different people that I'm a contractor for. Okay. And so they don't provide anything, because when you're a contractor, you're providing everything.
right.
And that means that you have to really be your own best health detective. You've got to be the person that is conscious of the workplace environment for yourself when you are in a contractor position, as opposed to just working from home as a part of your employment and having a W-2 scenario. So things that you just spoke of are the exact contractor they're the profile. Okay, having to get your own chair, having to get your own desk, and making sure that you have what you need to make your workplace environment comfortable. But continue, please
Yes.
tell us more.
Okay. So I think also that's really important is not just your physical environment, but your mental and emotional environment. So using like emotional intelligence and using what I like to use is something called cognitive behavioral education or cognitive behavioral therapy. So just being
Mhm.
able to reframe. So let's say that I have something that upsets me before I come on to work. Maybe my coffee didn't brew right or something like that. Then, um, then with the reframing techniques that I've learned in cognitive behavior therapy, I can just kind of reframe the experience and start my day over and adjust my attitude so that I'm ready and available for work. That I don't have any. That's another thing is a mental attitude. It's like um, I don't want to bring my personal stuff, my negative personal stuff into the workplace. I want to try to be able to park that in my personal life and be able to be fully attentive to the needs of the workplace. So, using these techniques to reframe experiences, to change negative thoughts into positive thoughts are really, really important and key to stay on point and be in the present moment, not to be thinking about what I'm going to do next after work and not be ruminating over the past.
Mm. And having the discipline to do that when you're sometimes working from home, it's a challenge because
Yeah,
you're in the same environment where a lot of those things are happening. So being able
yeah,
to say, okay, I've got to be able to shut that off,
yeah,
for this amount of time because now my focus needs to be here. That
right.
is something that I had a real challenge with when I began working more from home. My kids were younger and they were in the environment, and it was very difficult for me to shut off the fact that I walked out of the space where I was working and there were chip bags on the floor. Somebody had just missed the trash can. it's
Yeah.
it's like, being able to shut off the, okay, guys, I need you to pick this up and go back in the door instead of me grabbing doing it myself and grabbing the vacuum and trying to take care of it right then. That's not something that you have the luxury of doing sometimes in the
Yeah.
home environment because of the scheduling and things that may happen. So, it's a real challenge to be able to, just stay focused in your environment on what it is that you're supposed to be focused on for that period. It's oftentimes, we have to really work at it.
Yes. And one thing that I use is I'm wearing noise canceling headphones right now, which are really helpful because sometimes in my particular environment, because I am working from home and I live in a shared building, there are outside noises and stuff. But the noise canceling headphones really help minimize that and help me stay focused. And using mute whenever necessary, like if I'm on a presentation or something like that, to use the tools that are provided to to stay professional in an environment, even though I am working from home, to keep up that professional edge and that professional decorum that's expected.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I get up and get dressed every day. And I had someone comment, it's like, do you do this every day? I had someone who came on to a meeting with me who had been on a meeting with me for 2 or 3 days. And they were like, every single day you have on something different, or, wow, you just look so nice all the time. How do you do that? You're at home, or why do you do that? But for me, it's so important that I separate my, downtime from my uptime, so when
Right.
I'm off work, I change my clothes. Because
Yeah.
I need to be able to, again, make the separation. And for me, when I'm in full suit and, or, have on my beautiful dresses or whatever, if I'm that way after work time, I'm going to work until I go to bed. And so I've got
Oh,
to make it happen for me that I make this demarcation. Okay, Now I'm going to put on my grubbies or put on my sweatsuit or, put on a
Right.
t-shirt and some sweatpants or stretch pants or whatever because I need to
Yeah.
be able to have the downtime. But it also signifies to my family that, okay, she's made that shift. All right. She's accessible. And because when I don't do that, I remember yesterday, my husband and I had a situation where I was still working and I mean, I was working because I thought he was doing something working, and we both ended up being, in a work mode longer than what we intended. We were supposed to be going to dinner, but instead of us going to dinner, we worked for 2 hours later than what we had expected because he thought he was waiting on me and I thought I was waiting on him. But we didn't have that demarcation. The normal thing that I do, which is as soon as I'm done with work, I just jump out of the work clothes and put on something else. I didn't do that. And as a result of it, he didn't have the cue to know, okay, she's done with work. We can just kind of now decompress. So having the ability to say to your family and others who you're that are in your living space, okay, the time is over for work. Now I'm moving to, family time or, decompress time or whatever. Or even if you live alone, having your body make that shift because you took off a
Yes.
regular, shirt and tie and put on a t-shirt, to give your body the
Yes.
ability to know, okay, it's time to relax now. It's time to rest. I mean, do you find
Yes.
that to be something that could be important in your space?
Yes, I find there's some techniques in mindfulness, like where mindfully putting on your clothes, putting on like, even though your professional, my professional clothing is like my work uniform. That's like putting on a work uniform, like as if I was in a trade, like a delivery driver or like a police officer. They all have their uniforms. So my professional dress is like a uniform that when I put it on, I can actually use some mindfulness and feel like, okay, I'm putting this on. I'm putting on the hat of being in the professional work mode. And so I really identify with what's been shared about having that demarcation of like when I'm in work mode. That's especially important when you're working from the home office, being in work mode versus being in casual mode. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to have that, and because it's easy to get distracted when you're in your home environment. There can be distractions. Um, it's a workplace environment, like a corporate office, is a little bit more controlled environment. There may not be as many outside influences, the distractions that can happen in the home environment. And so you want to come across as a professional when you're wearing that professional hat. And so
Yes.
things like clothing can make that difference.
Oh, absolutely. I concur. Okay, so let me just cover one more thing because I don't know if you ever really noticed the difference when you shifted from being in an office. I know that at one point in time you were a turning point, and so that was a different type of a work environment. And then you went to being in an office where you had more control because it was in a separate office when you were working, at our church location. And
Yeah.
then now you're in this environment. Do you have preferences of the environments or has anything that you've learned from one environment to the other given you the ability to say I prefer this over that?
Yes, one of the preferences is like right now I'm working on a tablet, and I did like access to a full range computer, which gave me a little bit more options, um, than the functionality of a tablet could. Um, and the other thing is that demarcation we've been talking about is actually having like a clock in time and a clock out time, and actually
Mm,
reporting to a specific location can help make that mental shift from casual to professional. So
okay.
when I'm in my home environment, I it's a little bit more challenging to make that shift, because like I might go right from eating my breakfast in my home environment to getting on a Zoom call, that and I have to somehow make that shift that it's like, okay, Kevin, we're in professional mode now. It's time to be, have some professional decorum and um, not be so casual, if that makes sense. And
Yeah,
being
no,
on
I get it.
being on
I
camera
get
and
it.
stuff like that, it makes sure that when I'm on camera and everything, that it's like I'm not eating or I'm not, you know, I don't want to be gross, but like rubbing my nose or anything like that. I want to be as professional as I can be when I'm on camera and
Yeah,
on
those are really
audio.
good things to note because I mean, for me, I've done the Zoom thing for so long, and one of the things that I notice is that, like, for example, when we're in class, my instructors at the universities, I go to two different universities, and I've been at another university previous to this, on where I had online classes, and eating is a total thing. Eat while you learn. Okay, bring your lunch,
Right,
because of course we're conscious of the fact that people are working through lunch a lot of times, or they're in
right,
class through lunch. And so having to make that mental shift that, okay, whereas it might be okay for me to have a meeting like that, for some situations it's not. And so
right.
maybe having a coffee in a meeting is a deal, breaker for some people's, and in some cultures, though, not having a coffee in a Zoom meeting is a deal breaker. I
Yeah.
remember having meeting with people in Chile, and they are everybody's drinking coffee. Where's your
Okay.
coffee? Where's your tea?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So I have special cups and things that I use in my Zoom meetings, and or I'll be in a meeting and someone says, we've been in a meeting for an hour, you haven't drank any water. Yeah,
Mm,
so
yeah.
those kinds of things we help each other in that way, but we have to be conscious of even those, types of things, because some of our meetings are 2 hours long, and we need bio
Yeah.
breaks even in the middle of that. So creating
Yeah.
your home environment so that you have water near, right? Water is
Yeah.
near. Okay.
Yeah.
And that you can have a coffee maker or something that you can, okay, I'm gonna get set this up so that I have coffee or tea or something to make sure that I'm properly hydrating,
Yeah.
and keeping myself fresh. I keep nuts around and things of that nature so that I have the ability to have those little snacks and things that I would have, because if I were in an office, we have snacks, we've got tons and tons and tons of opportunities for us to take those bio breaks. But when I'm in the house, even though the kitchen is like there, I sometimes will not do it, and I don't
Right.
know what the mental shift is that we have to make, but we've got to start doing that when we're working from home. It's very important.
Yes. And you mentioned breaks, and I think that's important too when you're working. Like when I work from home, I have to be conscious that that I don't overwork or burn myself out. That because I don't have a supervisor or a boss specifically telling me when I should take a break and everything, because I'm a contractor, I have to be able to know wellness work life balance. I need to know what my rest points are needed, and when I need to step away from something. And
Yes.
sometimes it doesn't have to be, we're not talking about hours or like half hours. Sometimes it can just be a 5 minute shift of focus and
Hmm.
like maybe reflect on some mindfulness and, go back to the diffusing of some oils and stuff like that and kind of just reframe a little bit. And that can refresh me enough to get back to the work.
Yeah, no, that is great. I really do appreciate it. Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining with us today and sharing, your tips on, the wellness workplace environment. I mean, this has been so helpful. We are grateful for your ability to be transparent and really talk to us a little bit about how you do it, and maybe give some ideas to those who are listening, for ways that they can reframe and refresh and get right back at it. It's important. We look forward to being able to do this again and having you back maybe next week, so we could talk a little
Okay.
bit more about wellness and what it is that can be done to keep us working and making us more efficient and more productive. And with that said, Jerron, if you can bring up my last slide, we just want to give some next steps and some context for how we might be able to move forward. So some of the challenges and opportunities that we do have, managing the different work styles and preferences are really, really important for us to note. We know that everybody's situation is not the same. And so we've got to be able to manage, and also looking at, how we can build a flexible, adaptable workplace that accommodates diverse needs and preferences. That's an opportunity. Okay. And so even though we might have the challenge of managing, different styles, we do have the opportunity of building out something that's flexible, that can be adaptable to everybody. And then having the equitable access to resources and opportunities, that's a challenge, but you can promote inclusivity and accessibility for everyone, regardless of where they work. I know that in our case, we've swapped monitors. I mean, I have done all kinds of things to make sure that people, have what they need, but we've also made it so that we have a sharing environment. I've had people say, hey, I've got this big old monitor. I don't need it anymore. I've downsized my office. We are all working from home. Does anybody on the team need this large monitor? I can appreciate a smaller monitor. So we've done the monitor swap or the television swap, okay? Because some of us are using a television as our monitor. We've even swapped devices, okay? Somebody needed a bigger device. I had an older iPad, but it was a larger iPad. I needed a smaller one. So we've done a device swap, So having the ability to do that, and even computers. Recently, I had a situation where somebody's computer went out. So I shipped them, one of the MacBooks. And so I'm getting ready to do the same in this particular case. And although we haven't, we have to be really careful about providing things because we're working with contractors. But, if we're giving it free will, hey, I'm giving you my device and it's a gift, that's a whole different thing, because it does help us to become more, effective in what we do when we have the tools that we need to help us, win the game. So maintaining a strong sense of community and collaboration has been important, and investing in the necessary technology and the strategies to foster the connection between your contractors and your employers, or your employers, or whoever it is that's in person and remote. You got to do that. You have to do that. And then balancing those work-life demands, promoting the healthy boundaries like we talked about, Kevin and I, having flexible work schedules and access to the resources for stress management and well-being. That's going to be important. Last slide, please. So the conclusion to today's session is that we've got to invest in wellness in the workplace. It's crucial for creating a positive and productive work environment. We've got to be able to adapt to different work settings, embracing flexibility, prioritizing well-being, and we can build out thriving workplaces that attract and retain the talent that we want, but that boosts the productivity and fosters happiness, amongst all of those that are working. That is so important. Well, thank you for sharing with us today. We know that this has been a great session. We've almost taken the whole hour to, make it so that everyone got what they needed, but I think it's been important. And we look forward to those of you who are going to be with us again next time right here on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide.